Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming this morning to this Canadian-European discussion on clean tech opportunities. As we all know, clean tech is something that hopefully we'll deal with, or sort of say climate change is something dealing with on a worldwide scale and a worldwide perspective. And so between myself here at BlackTech Capital, where we're a venture fund investing in Black entrepreneurs in clean tech, and the Go Up Business E-Incubator, accelerating smart growth in Europe, welcome you to this event on discussion on clean tech.
And good to say hello to everyone, also from Europe, another part of the globe. We've been very lucky to have met Brian and his team at the BlackTech Capital. We are here as co-organizers of this event, and actually this is our first ever public event because we just recently launched the incubator after more than a year and a half of preparation, and today this is our very first event. So let's wish each other good luck to the BlackTech Capital as well, and let's open it up.
Yep. So the time is now. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not saying anything new to some of the audience, but climate change is a huge issue. This year in Linton, British Columbia, here in Canada, on our west coast, we reached an all-time high of 48.8 degrees Celsius. That was a huge, massive jump. It was 5 degrees higher than anything ever seen in that area from a heat wave perspective. And it's left the experts. These are the experts that looking at this, expecting climate change, expecting what's happening. And they were shocked and speechless because this was something they did not believe could happen, that significant a jump can happen from a heat wave. And it's the highest above 50 degrees north, I believe it was. So massive, massive shifts that we're seeing. And I mean, and Linton had that, and then all of a sudden they've had wildfires this summer. They've had massive landslides going into the winter, cutting off a lot of the roads in BC. So there's just, this climate change is massive, shifting, widespread, intensifying, and we have to act now. This year in Syracuse, Italy, there was also 48.8 degrees Celsius as a maximum high. Before that, it was 48 degrees in Athens, Greece was the record. This new record, even though they expect that it'll be confirmed, it's still yet to be confirmed because the World Meteorological Society is trying to confirm so many different huge weather event changes and temperature changes. They haven't gotten around to verifying if this one is accurate. They just verified that the high for the Arctic was reached back in March or back into summer, and now they're still working on this one. So that's what we're facing. So going into clean tech, even though we're talking about something that is here to change the environment, modify it, hopefully reverse what we've done as a species, there's still a huge opportunity. The global market for clean tech is expected to exceed $2.5 trillion this year. And Canada and Europe are well poised in that. There's a ranking came out last year of the 2021 Global Clean Tech 100 Index, and Canada's ranked second on that list. The US is first with the most companies, but Canada, being a small country, only about 36 million people, we're ranked second. So we, as I say, punch above our weight, right? We have a lot of things that we develop, a lot of technologies that we develop in the clean tech arena, but we know it's not something we're just going to keep here within Canada. We're going to have to export it because we're dealing with worldwide issues, and two, that's with a smaller population, we bring our technologies around the world. And Europe has 32 companies on that index over a number of different countries, but clean tech is really developing. And as I said, for Canada, it's a big part of our export industry. It's expected to be a $20 billion export industry by 2025. And for Europe, Europe is poised to they want to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050. So clean tech, there's a lot of opportunity, again, for doing good, reversing climate change, making a difference for the planet, and there's an opportunity for investing into it. So who are we? We're BlackTech Capital. We're a pre-seed fund in Toronto that invests in Black entrepreneurs focused on clean tech, where we say our impact is at that intersection of social responsibility and environmental initiatives. And go ahead, Rosa, go up.
Yes, I could say a few words about GoUp. Maybe most importantly, we're partners with BlackTech Capital, which is a huge advantage in working in the clean tech field. And over some time that we've been working on the setting up of the business incubator, we've managed to partner with the European Commission that has supported us in establishing it. We bring together 7 countries, and we aim to promote clean tech, the sustainable development throughout the whole value chain, entrepreneurship, circular economy, innovation, by providing a whole ecosystem for that. And this is all fully virtual with partners from 7 countries. And more about that will be covered by my colleague, Associate Professor Darima Zemova, who is one of the speakers coming up.
Thanks, Rosen. So a little bit about myself. I'm a managing partner here at BlackTech Capital. I'm a 4-time entrepreneur. Started off my career in the corporate world in the energy sector. I'm an engineer by training, so I understand the energy sector very well, been over 30 years in the energy industry. But the last 10 years of that focused more on the clean tech sustainability side, looking at where it's going on, what changes are happening, what's needed. And that's when I said, with my company, previous company, saying what difference can we make? And now with BlackTech Capital, how can we accelerate those differences? How can we help more companies come into this marketplace and develop more sustainable companies to tackle climate change, and especially in the clean tech sector? And then to help him with that, I work with a lot of different founders around the world. I'm mentoring in Founder Institute, which is an accelerator program for pre-seed companies. Here in Toronto, I mentor in Palo Alto, California, Washington, D.C., mentor with Techstars Toronto, involved with the University of Toronto, Ryerson University. So I try to get a reach to see a lot of different founders, a lot of different companies, and help make a difference towards climate change.
And I'm lucky to have known Brian and his team through the Founder Institute, in which we've met. I've been involved with the Founder Institute for several years, and most recently with their programs in the Silicon Valley, Amsterdam, and Tallinn, especially as co-host of the programs in Tallinn and Amsterdam. But I have also multiple other hats related to academia, to serial entrepreneurship, to advising the former president of the European Commission, and working with some companies that are big and international, but obviously they want to innovate in the eco field and move into a more circular, sustainable model.
Thanks, Rosen. So today we've gone through some of the brief introductions about ourselves, about BlackTech Capital and the E-Incubator. So the plan is today, we have a number of speakers speaking today on clean tech in general, and what the different opportunities are. We have Darima Zemova, she's the board president of the E-Incubator. Peter MacArthur, he's a VP National Clean Tech Lead for Royal Bank of Canada, but he's wearing multiple hats today, representing the Ontario Clean Technology Alliance and also Canada Clean Tech Alliance. We've got Gonçalo Amarin, who's the CEO of Building Global Innovators, and Brian Watson, who's partner at Flow Ventures and manager and director at Clean Tech North. So those are the speakers that we're going to have today talking on this topic. And then we're also going to showcase a couple of companies that we're looking at here at BlackTech Capital, Aquafort and Lorcan, just give you a flavor of the types of companies that are out there looking to solve some of the clean tech issues. And then we'll go from those presentations. After each speaker, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. So either throw it in the chat or put up your hand and we will try to recognize you and bring you on camera if you prefer to do that. And then in the end, we'll have some panel discussion with some questions from the audience. You can direct it to anyone and wrap this all up by 10 o'clock. So we'll start off if Rosen, you'd like to introduce Darina, and then we'll bring up her slide.
Sure. We could do that as well. Actually, Darina and I have been working together for 10 years, and we met through an EU project. And all of a sudden, it came out that we were even born in the same city. Throughout the years, we've been working together on multiple projects. So we've co-authored a publication, we've been engaged in many different activities, and most recently, the E-Incubator. She has her academic hat as the associate professor in the Trakia University, but she was also the vice rector there. She was also vice rector for university in Kazakhstan. She has multiple research awards, and the subjects that she's teaching and researching about are closely related to the topic of today's discussion. It's all about eco-entrepreneurship. It's all about circular economy, cooperatives, innovation. So I would like to pass the floor to Darina, and she has a very nice presentation to share with you all.
Hello, I hope first of all that you can hear me and you can see the presentation. Rosen, can you confirm this?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for this nice introduction. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Rosen. Welcome to all the panelists and the participants and the colleagues who are joining today at this event. Of course, I have to reconfirm that I am very pleased to be part of the Canadian-European discussion on CleanTech opportunities event and to put into action a flagship of the long-term vision for impact investing in CleanTech. I see now, okay, so you see now the presentation as it should be seen. The support of the entrepreneurial ventures has never been more important to our community and to our economy, and we are now well aware that we cannot do this alone. Therefore, we, as Go Up Business Incubator, are working very hard to make sure that our portfolio companies have access to the best advice and to the global network of investors. The aim of the Go Up organization is to support the development of the most innovative startups, and we are covering the areas from Central and Eastern Europe, the Western Balkans, the neighboring countries. We are doing this by combining their potential with the knowledge and the resources of the leading global and regional enterprises, and of course with the experience of the international mentors that will help the startups to scale up on international markets. Of course, Rosen presented some very brief information about the GOA, but let me focus at the very beginning, very briefly on how we started the initiative. We are established thanks to the joint collaboration with the Horizon Result Booster of the European Commission. And during this long journey for preparation of the incubator, we've been working very closely with the experts from the Meta Group and Improve. Of course, you can see now on the slide that we represent 7 partners under the umbrella of the joint civil company Go Up. We have Trakia University from Bulgaria, Çanakkale University from Turkey, Zip Center from Serbia, Association Face Grow from Estonia, Fortes from Italy, Youth for Peace is a new association from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we have the Foundation Startup Moldova from Moldova. So you can see that we are multi-level, multinational organization based on our successful long-term partnership and collaboration, which apparently is between academia, business, and non-governmental sector. So Go Up is supporting progress. Entrepreneurship is the best way to advance innovative ideas, but we also need to make sure that these ideas, besides creating material value, also foster social progress. In this context, what we are doing is actually to bridge the gap between the needs and the requirements of the higher education, micro, small, and medium enterprise sector, market, and youth employment. Therefore, we have a couple of specific objectives that we are targeting. And the first one of them is the capacity building activities. How we are doing this? Simply by training, consulting, mentoring, and all other services that are to support the SMEs and the startups, entrepreneurs in accordance to a very strictly predefined skill gaps. The second objective that we have is the creation of job and employment in our regions. Therefore, we are trying to facilitate startups and competitiveness of the SMEs. Here, it's very important to stress on the fact that we are also stimulating young students, researchers, postdoc. They are very interesting as ideas and as initiatives, and also to promote innovation in the agri sector with the highest potential for employment creation and growth. The third initiatives that we are targeting is about the cross-sectorial linkage development. So we are talking about fostering and strengthening the collaboration between academia and business. This is very important, and I think that we are doing very successfully until now, especially considering that we actually have based the Go Up initiatives on a previous project that we have been implementing with our partners. And last but not least, we have venture building in agri-food and bioeconomy, and we are doing this by pulling together resources, creating facilities for growing businesses from scratch to unicorns, innovating in products, services, and value chains that are climate neutral, smart, and socially fair. Of course, we focus all these activities, in particular services, that we have organized in a couple of, actually in two categories. The first category refers to startups and individual entrepreneurs. And the second category of the services that we are providing is targeting the investors. The first category of services have subcategories of services. And first, they refer to community memberships for startups and founders. This membership grants unlimited access to our matchmaking platform, as well as community events organized by or at Go Up premises. Our community members are also allowed to use all available resources in the member organizations, and also the convenience services of the space, plus benefits from different discounts. The second subcategory service is the incubator residency for startups and founders. So we have a 6-month period of residency where and when we are providing tailor-made training to our residents. We also give them access to dedicated mentor pool, facilitating matchmaking with investors. We also provide some technological and commercial advices and analysis. And of course, we give them free access to our networks. And we have one third category for the startups, which is actually a tailor-made combination between option 1 and option 2, and it is completely targeting the startups and scale-ups. This is the time to remind that we are working both on physical and virtual incubation. This, especially in the COVID situation, gives us, I would suggest, a very good advantage. The second category that we are providing, these are services for our investors. So we are starting with the baseline, which is community membership for investors. And again, this membership grants unlimited access to our platform for matchmaking with entrepreneurs, founders, as well as access to community events that we are organizing or we are participating. Of course, the community members are allowed to use all available offices and of course to benefit of certain discounts. Based on this first bottom line, community membership, further on we have developed bronze, silver, golden and exclusive membership where they are different in terms of the services we are providing, but more information you can also find on the website of the incubator. Just something, and I will stop a bit. Ross and I see that instead of sharing my presentation, it's the presentation you are sharing at the moment. That's why I think that there is some delay in the.
Yeah, it's screened directly from Toronto.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know. Therefore, I will continue then just to say, and maybe to take this opportunity to, yes, there we are with the services of the incubator. Now is the time, because we spoke with Rosen before the start of the event, that we have to announce that we are currently in procedure for accepting participants in our first incubation semester. So thank you, Brian, for this option to promote the process. We are running a highly competitive program that selects 2 cohorts of 10 startups, and this is the plan for each year. Over the course which is 4 months, the startups will be provided with all necessary support to rapidly accelerate their development and to achieve a market fit products. Of course, this information is also available on the website of the GoUp. Therefore, we are looking also for the questions from the audience now at the moment. And now, instead of discussion, this conclusion, just to stop with my presentation and perhaps to continue with the other speakers or with the questions, I would go back with the very beginning and to stress on the fact that CleanTech lends itself to being a multidisciplinary area, and we should consider how this can be a real asset. We understand and we definitely support the notion that the voice of the intellect and the fresh ideas do matter, and we are always on the listening and proactive mode from our side of the partnership. Therefore, this is my voice towards the participants today, the audience. Please be ambitious today and consider how can we can profit maximum from this opportunity, and how we can be a real driver of our economy and the future, given the circumstances and the opportunities we have. And this is the end, opening the discussion or the questions or for the next speaker. But thank you very much. We are really happy to be part and to be joining today on this event.
Thank you very much, Darina. And I don't know if anyone had any questions for Darina, or if you want to save it till later. If you have any questions, either pop in the chat or put up your hand right now. Otherwise, we will move on to our next speaker. Not seeing any questions at this moment. So moving on. So one moment here. So many screens. Our next speaker, I'm not sure if anyone's seeing my screen at the moment. Rosen, is the screen
Still
up?
loading. It's still loading.
Still loading. All
Yes.
right. Well, without further, then our next speaker is Peter MacArthur. Peter is the VP National Lead for CleanTech for the Royal Bank of Canada. He's also a board chair for the Ontario CleanTech Innovation Alliance, and for board member on the Canada CleanTech Alliance. I'm doing this from memory right now, Peter, so forgive me if I screw any of this up. He was also back in 2018 awarded a Clean 50 award for his efforts towards clean technology sustainability in the Canadian environment, and recently by RBC recognized in the top 0.1% of his company for his initiatives and lead throughout Canada on the clean tech space. So, we're very honored here to have you here today, Peter, and to speak into the audience. And let's see if I can pull up your slides. Mm-hmm.
Great, Brian. Thanks so much for the introduction. And, Rosen, appreciate the opportunity here this morning, and great to follow Darina. Good luck on your new incubator and your cohorts. I just last night watched Don't Look Up. So Go Up is a timely name. And I'll explain my passion about clean tech in a minute, but one of the challenges in messaging right now is the message is, if you think about, is a comet coming to Earth, what's the end result of all this climate impact and climate change that we're suffering from? How do you communicate it in a way that's interesting, attentive, not depressing? Anyway, I'm not really endorsing the movie, but I just think Up, Don't Look Up. It's poignant today as we try to communicate about how do we bring capital, how do we bring entrepreneurs to this space, get people engaged and interested. I'm here today representing the Ontario Clean Technology Industry Association, where I am chair, and I'll give you a brief presentation on it. I'll use that as a foil to talk a little bit about a few things in the clean tech sector. As Brian mentioned, I'm also chair of the Canada Clean Tech Alliance, which is about 22 associations across Canada that are aligned to try to promote clean technology. And there's more than that in Canada. But anyway, that's part of our breadth, is to give a national perspective. And as Brian mentioned, I am a national clean tech lead for Royal Bank of Canada. So some context for you: gray-haired guy, career commercial corporate banker, but I'm a lifetime environmentalist. I'm doing I'm one of those lucky people that's doing what they really care about. I have 2 kids. I now have a grandson. I've always been an outdoors guy. I'm very concerned about what's happening to our planet, and I'm trying to do my little bit to try to make a difference. So I work for Canada's largest company, Royal Bank of Canada, 9th largest bank in the world, and get the opportunity to try to influence our organization to deploy some of its capital in the sector and support companies that Brian might be working with or others to help them succeed. There are about 800 plus clean technology companies in Canada. Our bank works with about 200 of them. And the associations I mentioned earlier work with a large number of them on top of that. I'll tell you a little bit about that sector in a second. Brian mentioned this year we need $2 trillion. Canada needs $2 trillion. Not the world. Canada, little old Canada, needs $2 trillion to reach net zero by 2050. That's a lot of capital. That's a lot of smart deployment of innovative technologies, and it's a huge challenge. Let me go back to the previous slide there, Brian. Yeah, that's great. So, Actia, Ontario, just to give you some context, I don't know where everyone's dialing in from. Canada has, I think it's 12 provinces, number of territories, and Ontario is in the center of the country, and it is the biggest region or province in Canada. About 42% of our population is in Ontario, and it's the industrial, financial center of the country, physically and literally. And Ontario has a wealth of academic, lots of people on this call have academic backgrounds. Brian's associated with some of those academic institutions. It has really strong academic strength. It has really strong financial strength. This is a financial hub for Canada. Great experience in fundraising out of this community, and a very business-oriented community and the heart of Canada's manufacturing sector, distribution, transportation, and many things. In 2019, a group of us got together that were motivated and interested in the space and realized we needed a voice. CleanTech, as you know, most people on the call have a knowledge of it, is very, very diverse. And you know, all those diverse groups, it's hard to represent them together. And so what we're doing is we brought it together to have the power of numbers to represent that sector and give it a real voice. So it's not just 5 companies that represent a area, 15 companies that represent another area, but more like the 250 companies or 300 companies in Ontario that represent itself and can give it a voice to various decision makers. So, you know, it's a broad range of companies, and, you know, you can think of green chemistry all the way up to, of course, renewable energies, but energy storage, water, circular economy, I think Darina was mentioning, or is it Rosen? All sorts of things, and bring it together. So we're advocating, providing some education. We're doing a lot of connecting, like Brian's doing today and Rosen are doing today, connecting people, organizations, providing solutions, showcasing clean technologies. And yes, there's business opportunities here for sure. You know, that could generate green, clean jobs. Definition of clean tech, maybe this is redundant, but includes novel services, processes, products, activities that improve economic performance and significantly reduce environmental impacts. It includes, but it's not limited to, energy use, water, food production, transportation. Our approach to clean tech is not, it's a big tent. So it includes things like nuclear. And I know some countries aren't supportive of nuclear, but we're talking about things that are going to reduce GHGs and other impacts on the environment. And so it even includes that group. And I just thought I'd talk about, it's a big tent in our opinion. So this is, I think, the most interesting slide I've got for you. And so yeah, lots of colors, you get the sense there's lots of diversity. This is you know, representation of the members at Octia and gives you a sense of where they are. And you can see, you know, clean energies, a big one. Hydrogen's fairly significant. Energy efficiency, ag tech. You get a sense. Circular economy, we mentioned earlier, gives you a sense of Octia's members. But you know, if we're to talk about Canada as a whole, and I can wear my multiple hats here, you know, Canada has, in my opinion, 5 or 6 core competencies. And when you're thinking about, you know, partnering globally, there's a number of places where I would suggest there could be good partnering opportunities in Canada. So one of them is definitely hydrogen. Ballard Power, Hydrogenics, both sides of our country, and a wide number of related companies. You know, hydrogen is that very powerful, renewable fuel that has the ability to move trains. Germany, there's hydrogen trains running. Ships may be powered by hydrogen. We understand batteries and their solution for, you know, passenger vehicles. So you may have an electric car, but moving the big stuff is a big challenge. And so hydrogen, green, is obviously my favorite version of hydrogen. There are other variations of it. Blue, where you might have greenhouse gas emitting generators that then might capture that greenhouse gas to make it a additive to the economy. There's a wide variety. So hydrogen is absolutely one you should think of when you think of Canada. Water is another. And in fact, Ontario, there are more water patents filed in the province of Ontario than any other jurisdiction in the world. Ontario has a real core competency in water. Canada does. You'd think it's kind of funny because yes, we have all this water. So why do we actually need to know how to process it or clean it or before consumption or after as an effluent from a plant. But, you know, if you look at the single largest emitter, Canada's biggest city, Toronto, I don't know the population, I'll say it's 7 million, I'm not quite sure. But the single largest emitter in that city, I already told you, is financial center, industrial center, and all that, is our water treatment facility. H2O equals GHG in my funny chemistry. H2O, the amount of energy that goes into the water that we use to drink, to wash, and Europe's way ahead of us on efficient use of water. Israel's way ahead of us on efficient deployment of water in agriculture. But the effective cleaning, the effective treatment of that is fundamental. So water, core competency. Energy storage is another one. And so we love to talk about renewable energy. You can't have renewable energy without some form of storage, so that when it's sunny during the day, I don't know if you can see it's snowing outside my house right now, but you know, it's cold at night, and you're home. I'm home during the day because I'm working from home, but you know, you're turning on your oven at night, or you're turning on the lights of the house at night, or the TV or whatever. The energy consumption is in the evening. So the sun was out during the day. You've got to find a way to use that and store that power. So, you know, wide variety of battery solutions, and not just lithium ion, which is the popular one, you know, of in vehicles, but, you know, E-Zinc is a Canadian company that's doing a zinc-based battery storage for long duration, which is what, you know, you don't just want a few hours, but if you can have days of energy stored, incredibly valuable. HydroStore, another company, does long duration energy storage, just landed some large contracts in California and Australia, working with utilities. So energy storage is another Canadian competency, in my opinion. Green chemistry, another one I think is very strong. U of T has great programs, University of Toronto, University of British Columbia as well, right across Canada, McGill in Montreal. There are quite a few academic institutions that have great chemistry. And you know, companies I might mention there, you know, Genesis Bioindustries is a company that's taking food waste and creating biodegradable plastic. Kind of hard to swallow. Food waste into biodegradable plastic. How virtuous is that? And you know, the challenge with using waste is often coming up with the inputs on a consistent basis. So many people want to use waste, but if you want to go to a landfill and take that waste and do something, the quality is very hard to manage. But you talked about the agri-food business, Darina. If you can take some food that's consistently processed, or food waste that's consistently processed, and then use that as a feedstock at that plant, then you've got that consistency. So Genesis is doing that. Altex is a company that's creating biodegradable polyester replacement from waste. So others I'd mentioned, I've already mentioned nuclear as a core competency. CANDU reactors are some of the safest in the world, and modular nuclear reactors are things Canada needs in remote communities, provide sustainable power for high intense use. So resource extraction, that's got real applications. And then the last one I want to mention is CCUS, carbon capture, utilization, and storage, is definitely a Canadian competency. Largest carbon capture facility in the world is in Saskatchewan, operating today. But you know, there's utilization of carbon, which is really quite virtuous, whether it's through biochar, a large number of biochar companies in Canada, and Europe has got some real competencies there that I'd love to know more about. Biochar is a replacement food substitute to reduce methane emissions in bovine. But anyway, I could go on and on. That gives you a sense of Canada's competencies. Ontario counts, this says a third. Actually, my numbers are higher than that. I think it's about 42% of our clean tech sector is on Ontario. It's a big chunk. In Canada, British Columbia is second. So even though it's not the largest province, Alberta, where our oil and gas sector is related, is located. There's very significant clean tech activity there. And the province of Quebec, our francophone province, and bonjour à tous, has a very significant clean tech sector, but it's right across Canada with different competencies in each area. We'll go to the next one there, Brian. Probably no surprise to, certainly to a Canadian, that the United States is our largest export destination for clean tech. UK, EU, Japan, China, India. You can, yeah, that's the order. And that's, if you think about the world's population, probably China and India should be more at the top there. So there's lots of opportunity for Canada to do more. It's just all too convenient for us to drive across the border. What is it? 90% of the Canadian population lives within 100 kilometers of the US border. So it's just all too easy for us to, and culturally, linguistically, you might think I sound like an American. So it's many of the announcers in the United States are Canadians. That's why people think Canadians sound like Americans, because it's Canadians speaking to Americans often. But anyway, that gives you a sense of the marketplace. Obviously, the EU is very important to us. And so the people on this call, it's relevant to Canada, and there's more opportunity. And it's an unbelievably multicultural country in Canada. So our ability to communicate strong. Summary of myself. Micah Althaus is the Executive Director of the Ontario Clean Technology Industry Association. And you've got some contact details there. Micah is also the Executive Director for the Canada Clean Tech Alliance. So we're quite tied together. I hope that didn't put you to sleep. But anyway, that's some perspective on clean tech in Ontario and clean tech in Canada. And Octia is actively advocating. And I know Brian Watson's going to follow up, and he can talk about some of the advocating we did during COVID. Thanks very much, everybody, for the time.
Thank you very much, Peter. That was awesome. In the interest of keeping it moving, because I know Brian Watson has a schedule, I'm going to bring him up next to talk about his initiatives. As I mentioned, Brian is a partner at Flow Ventures, where they're investing in clean technologies. He's also the managing director of CleanTech North. Last year, Brian was also a winner of the Canada Clean 50 Award for his efforts in sustainability, making a huge difference, again, in the sustainability arena. And I'll bring him up next. And we'll save questions for Peter. Again, thank you very much, Peter, and we'll save those till the end.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Brian. I'm glad to be here. And you've given my introduction, Brian, so I won't belabor the point. Contact details are on the slide. I do have a 9:30 cutoff, and I also have a wonderful lockdown companion here. So please don't mind the sound of one of Canada's most dubious exports, the cartoon Paw Patrol, playing in the background, and trying to keep him educated, homeschooled, while we're in lockdown this week for COVID purposes. So if there's any interruptions, I apologize in advance. So actually, Peter did a lot of my job for me. We had one of the most record years, the most record year that I have ever experienced in clean tech last year. I've been running CleanTech North for almost well over a decade. It's a consortium of clean technology companies from across Canada, mostly focused in Ontario, but we have companies around the country. A good number of good. How's that volume like? Is that any better?
Yeah, still robotic.
Okay, give me 1 second.
How's that?
That's good.
That's better? Okay. You might pick up more of that Paw Patrol in that case, but my apologies. So yeah, we had a record year last year. CleanTech North's been around for about well over a decade, bringing those companies, the investor community, and government stakeholders together to advance that clean technology ecosystem. And I have never seen so many deals done, companies funded, and honestly, venture capital funds being created. We actually started showcasing, as Brian would know, new venture capital funds that are coming into the market last year. We've never done that in the past, but there's so much going on in the ecosystem. And I'll speak to that a little bit later on, I think, the next slide, that we ended up showcasing those because they're hunting for deal flow. Big company challenges in Canada right now, which are obviously also opportunities, is customer adoption. COVID did slow a few things. A lot of that has sped up. Most of the projects that were put on hold after those initial shocks, people have figured out the protocols. There were also a lot of companies that had technical issues integrating their technologies, and that speaks to a need that a lot of companies have, that partnering can sometimes solve, which is working together to create a more fulsome solution. No one clean tech solution is the silver bullet, even though HydroStore is a wonderful company, and and there's some news about them even yesterday. They're not alone in that ecosystem. There's a number of companies that need to go alongside them, from the transactional energy infrastructure to the regeneration infrastructure. So, you know, the issues that companies have faced in terms of implementation on the technological side can often be overcome with partnering with other companies that specialize in various different areas of that. So that may be an opportunity for companies in the EU to partner with Canadian companies to bring a mesh network type solution together to overcome challenges and actually achieve implementations. Brian, next slide. As I mentioned, we're going to see a lot more. I know a number of other new funds that are being created right now in the venture capital space for both companies that are looking to expand into Canada, as well as investors that are looking to access the Canadian market. This is an opportunity as a limited partner or to raise capital. We have, of course, BlackTech Capital, Round 13 Capital is raising a large fund. CleanTech Innovation Canada is targeting a $500 million fund for CleanTech in Canada. Blue Vision Capital out of Montreal. And a new entrant, Antler, is a multinational investor with acceleration capacity as well. So that may be, Rosen, something that you want to take a look at. They just opened their Canadian offices. I believe they're based in certainly in Asia originally, but have expanded across the world with their funds, and they're in Canada specifically for ESG and clean tech. So lots of activity in this space, and it just shows that I think it helps illustrate the fact that Canada has been punching above its weight in terms of quality of technology companies as an opportunity. Yeah, we'll pop to the next. Perfect. So a few quick reasons as to why to look at Canada. It's a bit of a diverse audience here today. So you know, we've talked about the world-class technology. We've got Peter had a great slide that I'm going to steal very much and use in my slides, which is the breakdown of the Octia membership categories, because I hadn't seen those numbers before, but it shows the diversity of clean technologies that you find in Canada, from ag tech to storage, long duration storage. We'll talk about them in a second. But there's a real to you know, fish farming, AI technologies. There's a real breadth of technologies in Canada, whereas you don't necessarily find that in other jurisdictions. We have it all in terms of different types of clean technology, which makes me quite happy. We have had some deficiencies in the sector, so for investors, for a long time, for a very long time, for as long as I've been involved in clean tech, the constant drum that has been beaten is access to capital, creation of venture capital to fund clean tech. That still isn't necessarily where it needs to be, but it's getting better. But that means that a lot of companies have had to be very scrappy for a long time. And so a lot of the investors that I know that are seeking to invest in Canada are doing so because they see a lot of high value companies, high value assets here that have been undervalued or just not even seen in the venture capital ecosystem. So unlike other markets where it's more competitive for chasing deals, Canada's possibly a bit of a green field for the venture capital that wants to come in. So there's definitely some good value here. There's a lot of incentives to go green that are coming out from the federal and some provincial governments. We are obviously, as Octia and Peter as Canada CleanTech, advocating for more of those and a more consistent batch of incentives across all the different provinces, but especially in Ontario. But there's definitely a number of incentives. And you also see that in Canada, we've got great partners in the federal government as a champion. The mandate letters for our federal ministers just came out in December, and scanning almost all of them that have any relevance to economic development, innovation, all of them featured very heavily a mandate that thou shalt do clean tech. Words like circular economy, agricultural technologies, waste treatment. These are words that we never saw in mandate letters from our prime minister to his ministers as things that they had to accomplish. This is a bit of a sea change, and I'm excited to see what happens with that. So there's definitely a partner there, and that partner is also acting as an LP and co-investing with companies. I don't know how many companies we've got in this mix, but one of the pieces of advice that I've been working with a lot of adopters and consistently heard from them is one-off technologies are not necessarily the best way to approach an adopter of technology. Your one piece of technology may be, as I said, I mentioned before, part of a larger system. But if they don't know what all the other parts are that enable that system to really create a benefit, they can't just take your part. So knowing the companies around the world that you can partner with to create a full solution, not just your Bitcoin transactional energy solution. You need to know the long duration storage. You need to know the battery companies. You need to know those other companies, so that if you're going into that ecosystem, you can say, yeah, this is what we're selling. But these are all the other partners that if you need this or this or this part of your solution, here's a couple of options to make that a solution. And that goes to the first point, which is most of the adopters that I know don't have internal labs to go out or venture scouts or technology scouts to go out and find these technologies. They don't have the ability to go out and test them. Some do, and they're great, and they're wonderful partners. But a lot of companies that we speak to, heavy emitters, manufacturers, don't have an innovation department. So being able to help them overcome as many limits or barriers to them buying your technologies is absolutely to your advantage, whether that be from the a regulatory standpoint, making sure you've got all your certifications already done, to coming together with as a consortia to solve their specific problem, instead of having them to scout out other technologies to solve other parts of that problem. Any barrier you can remove from their path will help you sell to those adopters. Next slide there. That's it. I had one other slide that I was going to add, two other slides actually that I was going to add in there, but I don't think they made it into the last version that's up here. One is, in Canada, we do a very, very generous R&D incentive program. We did a lot of advocacy work on that. It's called the SRED SHRED program. This is a program that gives back primarily in cash about 63% of the R&D budget that is spent in Canada by Canadian scientists or engineers. So if you have a company that is a heavy R&D company, there's a very heavy incentive to do work here. Peter mentioned some advocacy work that we did in In 2020, the first wave of COVID, which seems like a very long time ago now, but to get that program unstuck. But between Octia and CleanTech North and Flow Ventures, we were able to unlock about $250 million that had gotten stymied. And that's in Canada, that program can be the lifeblood of companies, especially when there's a large exogenous shock like a pandemic that comes down on you. So we did a lot of work on the advocacy on that side. And the final note slide that I had wanted to include in there was a little bit of news yesterday on one of the companies that you've mentioned, Peter. Great deal, HydroStore that was mentioned by Peter, long duration energy storage, raised 250 million as of yesterday in their latest round. So that was just announced. So it just goes to show not all deals are at that scale in Canada for sure, but there's a lot of activity in Canada. A lot of companies, 800 plus, and I'd say that 800 is an underestimation still. Clean tech companies in Canada, all of which are great partners and more investors that are potential partners as well. So thank you very much. Yeah, there you go.
So, thanks, Brian. And
yeah, well,
it has been amazing hearing from you. I don't know if you have time for questions, or we could take them and send them to you over email, or if you have a minute, we could take the questions from the audience. Otherwise, we'll thank you again.
Yeah, I've got a minute or so if you've got some questions, but absolutely reach out. I've spent a lot of my time over the last couple of decades connecting people to the ecosystem. So that's one of my passions. So yes, a couple of minutes for questions, but happy to answer them afterwards too. If there are no questions, happy to take them later too.
Thank you too. And I must inform the audience that unfortunately our next speaker couldn't make it. So Gonzalo had some technical issues with the connectivity, and he was supposed to bring here a European investor perspective, but he'll be joining us for our next event that's coming up.
Okay, thank you very much, Rosen. Thank you very much, Brian. It was awesome to have you here today. Thanks for taking the time. And if there's any other questions that come up later on, we'll be sure to pass them along to you. Okay, up next, we will go into showcasing a couple of the companies that we're going to highlight today. The first one up is Aquafort. Aquafort is in the aquaculture arena and looking to transform fish farming. Their technology is using AI predictive technology to not only look at how to increase production, but also to very much increase the environmental impact, reduce the environmental impacts of fish farming. So you've got a combination of providing sustainable fish sources, as well as looking at the environment overall. And so I'll invite Bo up to Bo Simango, who is the CEO of Aquafort, to speak about his company. Bo.
Thank you, Brian, for organizing this event, and good day, everyone. And Brian, I'm happy to share the screen from my end, if that's okay.
Okay, give me a moment then. I will.
Here we go.
Yes,
all
we
right.
could see it.
All right. Hi, everyone. Well, aquaculture is the fastest growing food sector in the world, and the primary source of protein for over half of the world's population. But is experiencing significant production challenges that have led to a 50 million metric ton supply gap that threatens global food security and the sustainability of water bodies the world over. My name is Bo Simango, and I'm the CEO of Aquafort, and we're transforming aquaculture through a predictive clean tech software platform. This is our story. Aquaculture is dependent on manual labor for fish behavior and disease inspection, but how did we get here? First, poor conditions and disease or parasite vectors combine, leading to health symptoms that negatively affect fish behavior and lead to disease treatment. But the detection process of it all is dependent on manual inspection that is often sample-based and highly inaccurate, leading to delayed and reactive treatment processes, which cause $6 billion losses plus a 30% cost reduction spend annually. Our technology helps producers proactively manage and boost production ecosystem health, automate fish behavior monitoring, and lower the impact of virucides and pesticides to water bodies. This leads to faster and more accurate preventative measures, lowering losses by at least 50%. Our software helps producers maximize yield quality and quantity, lower fish mortality rates, and increase by identifying environmental variability and risk factors that affect fish growth, health, and welfare. Our software non-invasively uses data from pre-existing and pre-installed camera surveillance and environmental sensors as inputs into our algorithms, which are intellectual property. And we currently have multiple predictive algorithms developed that perform above the industry deployment standards. We envision a combination of low-cost IoT sensors, yield forecasting software, and our current SaaS platform as the foundation of our operations. We're deeply passionate about the environment and fortifying food security because of our experiences in emerging markets. On Ali's behalf, it was witnessing the challenges of SME farmers in Southeast Asia after the 2004 tsunami, where he lived. And on my behalf, it was observing the challenges of fish farmers in Zimbabwe at a time with severe droughts and the second highest inflation rate in human history, which threatened food security in the country. But our collective story includes selling 2 family businesses, co-founding 2 previous award-winning startups, and leading multi-million-dollar business transformation and value creation portfolios for Fortune 100 company here in Canada. We have a richly diverse expert panel hailing from the United States to Nigeria and the Middle East. They have far-ranging backgrounds, including a PhD in aquaculture, a sales and growth expert to a highly skilled fish farmer, and other outstanding professionals. We've made our advisory team, I should say, rather, combines blue chip experts providing high value counsel and have exited to some of the biggest names in the world. But more importantly, they are equally passionate about the environment, sustainable food production, and food security. We've made significant progress in technology and business development. We have over 100 farms on our waiting list and have onboarded 73 so far. We have also deployed our fully functional platform, and we met BlackTech Capital in May 2021 and have been meeting weekly ever since. We're priced for rapid adoption, and our pricing model works for SME farmers and commercial producers as well. With our SaaS revenue model, we anticipate being revenue positive by second quarter 2023 and getting to $1 million in annual recurring revenue by the end of 2023 as well. But to start, we are seeking to launch our first product and gain customer traction through fast proof of concept and trial conversions. Next, we target a Series A round to achieve break even and serve more smallholder farmers in Africa and Asia, which are our strategic regions. We are seeking a lead investor in capital investment, and in addition, we're looking for introduction to industrial or commercial partners as well. Current fish production processes are resource intensive, costly, and unsustainable, and will lead to high food commodity prices that will threaten global food security. Our mission is to solve these challenges for fish farmers around the world, including saving the environment, and we believe with your support, we can achieve our goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bo. That was awesome. Thanks for presenting that. Hopefully that gives everyone a flavor of Aquafort, what they're like, what they're up to. You can see they're doing some amazing things. And as Peter mentioned before, it's showing how the clean tech sector is so diverse. You're doing everything from nuclear storage, battery storage, and now into the aquaculture and agriculture industries with Aquafort, as mentioned by Peter, as well as Darina. What I want to do, bring up next is Lorcan, showcase them, let Manelli Clements do her presentation, and then we will go on and open up the floor for questions after that.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Oh, perfect. So hi, I'm Manelli. I'm CEO of Lorcan Technologies. I met Brian in our Earth Tech Climate Change venture program. So at Lorcan, what we've done is we've created a universal transmitter for remote area networks. And really what we realized is there's a lot of technology that's built for urban spaces, but there aren't a whole lot of telecommunications technology that's for remote areas. And the importance of that's really, it's really come to light with climate change. So sorry, next slide. So what we saw, my team is a group of telecom experts, but we're also very much aware of what's going on with the environment. I'm from Alberta originally, so being outdoors was something that I grew up with, and I've been volunteering with a lot of agencies for wildlife monitoring, especially here as Alberta develops its infrastructure. Wildlife monitoring has been key. And even though these agencies have technology and tools to help them monitor the wildlife corridors, it's still not enough data. And sorry, next slide. And that's because a lot of these agencies are using environmental sensors that are placed outside of traditional connectivity. So these sensors require researchers to go out and manually extract data from either data loggers or environmental sensors that are collecting the information. And we know that in order to be able to meet our mandates and reach our targets, that both Canada and the world has set with SDGs or with their new green plans, data is actually very vital. So the more data that these agencies have, the better. So what we've done is we've created this data transmitter that will sit on top of environmental sensors and be able to transmit the data manually, or sorry, automatically, so that manual data retrieval is no longer a thing. So agencies are able to get their data more consistently and frequently. So next slide. So this is primarily where I'll talk. It's more of how we got to our technology. We've actually been really fortunate to be supported by European agencies. We early on realized that Europe has been kind of a trailblazer when it comes to mandates and what's going on in the country. We looked at a lot of what was happening in remote and rural spaces for transmission technology in Europe. And also under the European Union, a lot of these countries have these scorecards. So reaching sustainable goals was key. So developing technology from a greener side is something that we were inspired by. And then we actually were approached by the France-Canada Chamber of Commerce to pitch our idea and became the French Canadian Entrepreneurs of the Year. And through that, it opened up a lot of opportunities that I wasn't aware of from the funding side and also from the collaboration side. So at Lorcan, we were really fortunate to work with the France-Canada Chamber of Commerce Ontario, FCCO, and leverage their network, which included companies like Schneider Electric. And Schneider Electric was great to help us identify use cases, work on partnership grants, and really get our technology out and understand it on how we can not only help these environmental monitoring agencies, but also industries as well, like when it comes to oil and gas, pipeline monitoring, mining. All of those agencies are also using environmental sensors because this is becoming a huge need for regulatory and compliance to help achieve these targets that both Canada and Europe are setting. So it was it was great to work with a company that's really been noted as one of the greenest companies in the world, using their marketing departments to understand sustainability. The other benefit we got from working collaboratively with European agencies and companies is a lot of the technology and the units that we use in our product, we tried to make it sustainable. So to reduce our chip imprint, or the imprint of all of the hardware that's going into the devices. So companies like Avnet that are based in Switzerland, they provide scorecards on a lot of their products as well, so that we know that when we're purchasing, we're not purchasing just in bulk and contributing to the problem even further. We know that they work really closely with us to make sure that the deployments in these remote areas, because of the harsh, rugged terrain, and also making sure we're not affecting the areas during deployment with, pieces of plastic chipping off of our device. Like, that's something that we were really aware of when we were building our technology. And again, that comes from these partnerships with them. Another thing that a lot of companies aren't aware of is that Canada has a ton of grants on the innovation side from CanExport. So CanExport innovation, when you're looking at, like, for example, with our company, we were looking at completing projects in Australia with the Australian Wildlife Conservancy. And that's something that these grants that are available for setting up a business outside of Canada, CanExport works really well with companies such as ours in small business space to ensure that we have the resources in order to get into those spaces and promote our innovation under these types of programs. So the collaboration between Canada and Europe has been super beneficial for us. And as we grow into our next phase, which includes our initial deployment with programs in Canada for the Yukon, we're also leveraging grants from NRCan and the government. So for us, our main advantage has come out of funding from government programs, but also funding from and support from European companies. So I think, next slide. Yeah, so I don't want to speak a lot, but I believe like now is the time that we all need to work collaboratively to make sure that we have the tools to impact climate change in a very positive way. Thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Minelli. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Brian.
Go ahead, Rosen, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I've seen both presentations of Minelli's and both, well, they presented in September, right? If I'm correct. And for these 3-4 months, they've done amazing work, huge progress. I'm really proud to have witnessed their progress, but I'm sure that behind this, there is a lot of work, and well done to you, to your teams, and to Brian as well, and the ecosystem that he's bringing. I hope that there is also a way that the other people that are here with us today in this discussion, or that are watching this, could find a way to help you with other use cases in Canada, in Europe, in other parts of the world, with access to other potential partners, and why not also investors. That's what I was going to say. Sorry to interrupt you, Brian, again.
No, you said it really well, Rosen. Thanks very much. I mean, I love how, with Bo and Minelli both showing that global reach, right? Showing, here there's companies developed in Canada and going to that global reach, with Bo, deploying his technologies first into the African markets, and then into the Asian markets, and then Minelli with that cooperation with the European. This is not these are not problems that can be solved just being done alone, just being done locally. And again, that whole need for that global network and working collaboratively. So what I'd like to do now is open up the floor to questions, questions from the audience, to direct to any of our panelists, Darina, Peter, Manelli, or Bo, questions you may have, and we'll take it from there.
Wow, I love this discussion. The partnership thing's really near and dear to my heart. I'm involved in a lot of different organizations. One of them is called Effective Altruism. Don't know if anybody's heard of that, but be interested to kind of connect people to that group of people trying to do sort of the most good in the world. And I think entrepreneurship is one of the key ways to do that, especially when it comes to places like Africa and some of those places in Asia where they really do need to develop the economies, and really, we do need to improve things with climate change, but we also need to make sure we increase GDP at the same time. And I think it's tricky, but I think it's possible to do.
Awesome. Thanks for that comment, Alex. I know it's getting on in the day in Europe and still early morning. Well, it's mid-morning now here. So any other questions for any of our panelists? Well, I'll direct one then. Darina, how do you see, with Go Up and where it's starting, do you see an opportunity for Canadian companies to participate in one of your incubators, in the Go Up incubator, and to what benefits that may potentially have?
I think that, thank you for the question, Brian. I think that this meeting will be a very promising start of this collaboration, because honestly, I see that there is a gap in this relationship between the European and the Canadian. Obviously, Europe is putting a lot of effort bringing the issue regarding the CleanTech, Green Deal, coal mining regions. Actually, I forgot to mention, but from Stara Zagora, we are in a coal mining regions that will be undergoing a major transmission of and transformation of the economy. Therefore, I think that we can start from here and try to develop. I listened very carefully to Minelli and to Bo, because I see a very good way whereby we can promote their ideas in the countries that are not only our partners, but even broader, because we are definitely profiting for our very wide network that we have. Therefore, I think that there is a huge room to extend this collaboration and to start with small steps, but hopefully to reach our goals.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. Peter, I had a question directed towards you. You mentioned that, was saying that the global market for clean tech is supposed to be $2.5 trillion this year, yet $2.5 trillion is what Canada needs to just meet its initiatives. What do you see as some of the strategies that can be employed to help bring in more of that capital to accelerate these initiatives that are needed?
There's a great question. Well, let me look at myself. So, I work for a large bank. So banks, insurance companies, pension funds, there's talk of divestment as a possible way of redirecting capital in. My own company's approach is to facilitate transition, so that you can provide capital to help companies transition to zero. Europe, I know the Norwegian countries have significant penetration for EVs, but I can tell you in Canada, in Ontario, it's about 3% EV, 97% isn't. So you need to transition people, you need to transition technologies to get us there to net zero by 2050. I listened to a speaker a little while ago, and he said, every single one of us, we love to throw these problems out and think, oh yeah, that's some big problem, the government will fix this. But if you have any money that you have saved for retirement or some purpose, you can direct that capital yourself. Each and every one of us can be part of this solution and direct some of our capital. And I'm not saying most of the companies that I am involved with are pre-positive cash flow, highly risky. But there are investment solutions that are not that risky, renewable energy solutions that are viable, diversified funds. You can make the decision to direct some of your capital. And I think it's up to every one of us to change our own personal behaviors, whether it's how do you get to the store, how do you purchase goods at that store, what goods do you choose to buy, to how do we invest. So I actually think there's democratization of this issue beyond large companies like mine needing to direct more funds to this cause. And I can tell you that, you know, I've never felt like such a popular kid on the block by the interest within my own organization to know about how can we move faster, more effectively. So, you know, the whole global movement to reach net zero is getting very serious. It needs to get even more serious, but I hope that's partly answers the question. That's a big question.
I agree, and thanks for that answer. It is a big question, and I agree with you. I tell people all the time, I see, you know, tackling these climate challenges is not really while it is a technical issue in terms of we have technical challenges to solve, it's more of a people issue, and it's each of us making that decision to either change how we're doing things, as you just said, Peter, or to look, you know, where do we direct our own personal investments? Where do we want to put our time, or where do we want to put pressure on our governments and to make those changes and make it happen faster? You know, it is becoming louder and louder. You know, I mean, I take it, you know, from a personal perspective, looking at why I got into BlackTech Capital was to make a difference for Black entrepreneurs and for the environment. And quite frankly, it took something like the Black Lives Matter movement back in 2020 to get me personally off the sidelines and looking to making a difference for Black entrepreneurs. And I think for all of us now, you know, Mother Nature is screaming louder and louder with those, you know, it said what was going on this year in BC, you know, that to me, that's the rallying cry for, you know, we need to get behind this clean tech. I know we have a few more minutes here before 10 o'clock. Is there any other questions anyone may have? Mm-hmm.
Yes, sure. I just wanted to come up with a question that's both to you, Brian, and to Peter MacArthur. And before that, just to resonate with what you just said about this whole movement. And we were discussing with Brian when we were organizing this event that we had one of these, let's say, big names in the European business angel network community, let's say, and he was initially on our list to be a speaker, and then all of a sudden he said, "Oh guys, I've reconsidered. I don't believe in climate change, and I'm not white, so I won't be there." And when we discussed it with Brian, we really, of course, it's not nice to hear such words, especially by someone that's, let's say, a prominent figure in this movement, but this really, really persuades us how much work we have to be done, and that we are on the right track organizing these kind of events where we are bringing people with diverse backgrounds, mindsets, ideas to get things done together. And speaking about the small players in this market, this is a question to both Brian and Peter. I was wondering how could VCs and banks work together to support these small startups that are coming up. And from the presentation that I saw, I was left with the impression that it seems like more lucrative and let's say financially more attractive to have hydrogen batteries, you know, biotechnological facilities. But these are very big projects that need a lot of capital. So what could we do for smaller startups that are eventually going to scale up and be there, but they're still, let's say, innovative, but not that much resourceful to get there?
Brian, can I jump?
Sure, go ahead.
I've got to get off it in
Yep.
a minute. But honestly, so both those companies started from nothing. Both those companies were ideas, very passionate entrepreneurs. I can tell you about an early stage company in the battery storage case. 3 young fellows, less than 30 years old, had an idea about effective battery use in cold storage facilities. That company today, 4 years ago, it had 0 sales, and now it has got north of 20 million in sales. So how do they work together? One of the things I would say we have to do is be connectors. Brian talked about being a connector, and honestly, I think that's one of core competencies that my organization has. I work every week connecting people to the likes of Brian Duarte and others who can provide capital. I have debt, others have equity. And this is a small ecosystem. We've got to be connectors. Hopefully that answers a little bit of your question, Rosen. I do have to jump, but thanks so much for the opportunity, everybody. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Peter. Greatly appreciate your time. If we have any other questions for you, I'll make sure I'll get them directed towards you. Thanks. Great for having you. And to add to that, to Rosen, to your question, I think we'll go back to what Brian Watson was saying. It's the first time he's seeing so many different new venture funds coming out and emerging. And so those venture funds like BlackTech Capital, those are what are going to be there to support the companies at these early stages. Get them growing, get them moving before they move on to the larger stages, and then look at the larger banks and other institutions for investment in later rounds. So it's great to see, companies like ourselves, Antler, Round 3, all the ones that Brian Watson brought up that are coming in that weren't in the space before last year. So there's more and more coming into this environment to make a difference. So I'm cognizant of time. We're just past 10 o'clock. I'd like to thank everyone very much for being here today. Thank you to Darina, Manelli, Bo, Peter, and Brian Watson for speaking, being here in this event, participating in this. We have another event coming up on January the 26th, at the same time. Some of the same speakers, as well as some different speakers covering some of the same topics, and then looking to do this on a monthly basis and bring forward some different things. So thank you again, everyone, for your time and attention today. And Rosen, if you'd like to just close up with anything.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, everyone. It has been a great pleasure to be here with you today. Looking forward to meeting you on the January 26th and following up with each of you to see what we could do together in this ecosystem that hopefully is growing exponentially.